Bell Jar is an interesting novel about a young girl and her battle with a mental illness. That girl's name was Esther Greenwood, and one summer she received a scholarship to New York for a fashion magazine company. She had fancy clothes and a boyfriend from Yale, and she was gorgeous. It seemed as though she had the perfect life. However, on that summer, her life took a turn for the worse. On page 2 of Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar, Esther stated, "I knew something was wrong with me that summer because all I could think about was how all the little successes I've totted up to so happily at college fizzled to nothing along Madison Avenue. I was supposed to be having the time of my life." Just from the second page, Sylvia grabbed my attention, and that's what made the book so fascinating all around. It taught me that even successful and prosperous people can have events in their life that take a turn for the worse. It was also fascinating because the book was told in the first person, and I liked hearing Esther's thoughts as well as how she perceived actions to happen in her own way. Additionally, the protagonist in this novel was Esther. She was trying to find a cure for her depression and faced many struggles throughout the novel. All she wanted was to be happy again and turned to help for many people in order to fulfill her desire. However, although they did not mean it, there were also many antagonists in the novel that contributed to Esther's depression. One of those antagonists was Buddy Willard. He was Esther's boyfriend. However, the day they saw the baby being born, Esther realized Buddy was a hypocrite. She did not like his views on writing or women. He compared poetry to a speck of dust, and he didn't believe women should have a career. Also, everyone thought he was so innocent, but he really had affairs with many other women. Joan was another one of the antagonists in The Bell Jar. She was always in competition with Esther. During college, they were in competition for Buddy, and in the asylum, they were in competition for privileges in Belsize. As for the novel as a whole, the main conflict of the story was Esther's state of mind. It was an inner struggle for her to face the fact that she needed to do whatever it took to become happy and herself again. Another one of the struggles was that she was so indecisive. On page 77 of the novel, Esther stated, "I saw my life branching out before me, like the green fig tree. One fig was a husband and a happy home and children, and another fig was a famous poet, and another fig was E.G., the amazing editor. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose." Esther's indecisiveness truly drove her insane, and I think it contributed to her depression even more. As for the organization and structure of the novel, I felt overall that it needed improvement. The use of chronological order and flashbacks were a little confusing. The use of chronological order was not specific and made it hard to put events in a time frame. As for the flashbacks, they were sometimes too abrupt. During some chapters, especially with Buddy, I was unaware when some actions occurred, such as the ski trip and when Esther broke her leg. I wasn't sure if that happened while they were in college, before, or even after college. In general, the novel had many great points and strengths about it. I loved the use of figurative language, like similes, metaphors, and personification. For example, on page 121, Esther used my favorite analogy of the book. She stated, "Inertia oozed like molasses through Elaine's limbs." That simile really helped me picture what she was feeling. As for the weaknesses of the novel, I felt that it lacked transitions. Just as I was saying before how the flashbacks were a little too abrupt, I felt that the story did not flow together. Also, there were many loose ends of the story. Whatever ended up happening to Constantine? Was there any follow-up with the girls from the Amazon? There were many questions that I felt myself asking after the book was over. Furthermore, the use of symbolism in this story was fantastic. Two major symbols in the story were babies and the bell jar itself. Esther said that she found out Buddy was a hypocrite the day they saw the baby being born. Thus, Esther's new birth of thoughts for Buddy emerged. As for the symbolism of the bell jar itself, just as a bell jar encases whatever's inside, Esther felt trapped within her mental state of mind. In this packet, there's an article called The Truth, Bell Jar, that states, being entrapped inside the bell jar, the symbol Plath uses to explain the strange feeling of alienation, is precisely what stops her from functioning on a human level. I agree with that statement. Just as a real bell jar encases whatever's inside and closes upon it, Esther felt like she was being trapped inside her own body and her own mental illness. Also, with a glass jar, you can see what's happening around the world around you. Esther was able to observe what was happening, but just was not feeling any emotion. Throughout the novel, Esther was going through an emotional roller coaster. That her depression started at the Amazon. She was unenthusiastic to be there, while all the other girls were excited to be wearing fancy clothes and touring different places. That was where her depression started, because she was amongst other girls and didn't feel special anymore. Esther stated that the only thing she was good at was winning prizes, awards, and scholarships. But once she was in New York with other girls who were just as good as winning as she was, she didn't feel like she was important. Once she went home after her summer internship, she became suicidal, which made her depression take a turn for the worse. That was what truly progressed her depression during the novel. However, once she went to Dr. Nolan's, she truly began to gain her emotions back. She viewed hatred towards her mother, which I believe Dr. Nolan thought was a good thing because she started to care again. Also, there were many small events that led to Esther's mental breakdown. Her dad died when she was very young, so she did not have a paternal figure in her life. Also, when she was at the UN, she realized she was not truly talented in anything. Additionally, she did not make the writing course that she thought she was going to make. Unfortunately, many little events combined with the fact that the major event was Esther felt that she was not important anymore truly led to her depression and progressed throughout the novel as her mental breakdown got worse. The different settings that occurred in this novel played a major and crucial part of the storyline. One of the most important settings of the story was New York. The story started off there with Esther at her internship. That was where she had the big and important talk with JC. JC told her that she needed to learn another language or do something special to stand out from all the other girls in order to get a great career. I believe that that was when Esther truly realized she needed to do something else with her life. Also in New York, like I said before, she was surrounded with many other special girls, which in comparison did not make her seem all that important anymore. Therefore, perhaps if Esther did not go to New York, maybe her depression would not have gotten the way it was. Another important setting in the story was Esther at home. She sprung back into reality after a month in New York in the hustle and bustle of the city. She found out she didn't make the writing course, thought of many ways to kill herself, and did not like being back home with the taunting image of Dodo Conway and other things that did not make her happy. The last and final crucial setting of the story was the hospital with Dr. Nolan. Dr. Nolan was a truly inspirational person in Esther's life. Esther cared and loved for Dr. Nolan. She treated her as if she was her own mother. If it weren't for Dr. Nolan, I don't think Esther would have gotten better at all. If she had not gone to that hospital thanks to Philomena Guinea for funding her there, I don't know where Esther would be. During the time period of the early 1950s, when the novel took place, women had a very minimal role in society. They usually had two options. They all studied in school, but one option was to get married, have children, and stay at home and not do anything with their studies and not have a career. Or the other option was to not get married and have a career and try to be successful. Esther did not want to get married or have children. All she wanted to do was to be a prosperous writer. In the book, I believe Plath was trying to tell us throughout her writing that women are capable of great things. If you noticed in the book, there were no strong male figures. Esther's dad died when she was little, so he never really was there for her, although it was unfortunate. Bunny was a lying hypocrite. Dr. Gordon gave her terrible shock treatments. Erwin, Marco, they both used Esther for the wrong reasons. And Constantine, she never really even followed up with him. However, there were many strong female characters, such as Philomena Guinea, and of course Dr. Nolan. Also, did you notice that the Amazon was an all-girls hotel? All girls were chosen for the internship, and most of the people she met in the asylum, like Joan, Dee Dee, Valerie, they were all women. There were no strong, firm male roles in this book. Plath was trying to hint to us readers that women are capable of so much more than they thought were at that time period of the 1950s. As for Esther leaving the asylum, I really do think she's ready. This is because she was able to go to Joan's funeral without throwing a fit, thinking about being suicidal herself, or thinking any other negative thoughts. Also, on page 243, Esther and Dr. Nolan were talking about whether she was ready. Dr. Nolan told her not to be afraid, but Esther stated this: "But in spite of Dr. Nolan's reassurances, I was scared to death." My mom always told me that being a little bit afraid of things is a good thing. It shows that you care about something. Since Esther was scared about leaving the asylum, I think that she cared enough to get better, and really was in the right state of mind mentally. As for what's in Esther's future, I think she would be an amazing writer. So many great similes, analogies, and figurative language were used in this book. Esther had a way of communicating her thoughts that made anyone reading the book picture what was going on in their heads. All in all, this novel was really one of a kind. It provided insight as to what really going through a mental breakdown is like. Not only can it help others going through a depression, to teach them that other people feel the same exact way, but it probably helped Sylvia to vent as she was writing it. The way in which it was written in such a descriptive first person appealed to me throughout the novel. It was also a great read because we were able to read articles about the reunion of the girls, as well as electric shock therapy and articles about the electrocution of the Rosenbergs. It provided for many class discussions. There were also many dynamics of Esther's mental illness that we were able to discuss as a class. I personally enjoyed the novel. It was suspenseful and I could not put it down. I wanted to read ahead. Unfortunately, it was Sylvia's only novel that she wrote. She had such a fantastic and unique writing style. I really wish she had written more books. The Bell Jar was an amazing novel, and there will never be anything quite like it in any other book.